Montessori Grandma. Episode 16. The Story of Geometry.
The Story of Geometry. A Montessori story retold and presented by Geeta Vijaychandran. The story of geometry serves as an introduction to the area of geometry in the elementary classroom. Although the children have already worked with shapes earlier, this story sparks their interest. A real rope is used to do what the rope stretchers did in Egypt. This story begins long ago in a place called Egypt in North Africa. Egypt was a dry, sandy desert. Life was very difficult and people depended on the River Nile for everything. Life was possible only on the banks of the River Nile. Without the Nile, life was impossible. The River Nile is the longest river in the world. The Nile gets its name from the Greek word Nilios, meaning river valley. It is about 4,000 miles long. The River Nile travels through Egypt, Uganda, Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, Democratic Republic of Congo, Rwanda, Burundi, Sudan, and South Sudan. The waters of the River Nile runs from south to north and flows into the Mediterranean Sea. The river has its source in a mountain far south. Every year at springtime, it rains and rains in these mountains. The water cannot be absorbed by the land, and so the water flows into the river. This causes the water in the river to rise above its banks. By the time the water reaches Egypt, it overflows on the banks and floods nearby fields. You might think these floods were a disaster for the Egyptians. But no, it was a blessing for those people of long ago. When the river flooded, it brought mud and debris from the mountains onto the banks of the river and the fields. This black mud and humus naturally fertilized the land. The people called Egypt the gift of the Nile. The River Nile was the heart of Egypt. The soil was perfect for farming. The area colored green was called the Black Land due to the color of the soil. The area beyond the Black Lands were harsh deserts called Red Lands. But the flooding caused problems also. Every year, the boundaries that separated one farmer's fields from his neighbor's fields got washed away. When the water withdrew and it was time to cultivate the land, they argued about which land was whose. So every year, special people had to solve this problem. These people were called harpendodapte, a Greek word that means rope stretchers. They stretched the rope according to a pattern. The ropes they used were knotted at intervals, and there were 12 knots. Slaves helped them spread out the rope. Can 3 of you help me stretch the rope? Let us place it on the floor. What have we made? A right angle scalene triangle. We have a triangle with 5, 4, and 3 knots. But those rope stretchers did not know it was a right angle scalene triangle. Maybe they had a name for it in their language. The harpendodapter would mark this on the floor. Then they would reverse the triangle to make a rectangle. In this way, they would measure the land correctly. The argument among people got solved using this measuring technique. And this is how geometry began. The word geometry came from Greek. Geo means earth and metron means measurement. So we can say that geometry had its beginnings from this way of measuring land after the flooding of the River Nile. Geometry grew from the discoveries they made while working. Whenever a problem arose, they had to find a practical solution. They had to use their critical thinking. Rope stretching was a very prestigious profession in those days. The harpanodaptae were held in high regard. Measuring the land thus started with the rope stretchers. Rope stretchers used 3, 4, 5 triangles and the plummet, which are still in use by modern surveyors. But now iron chains have taken the place of ropes. Today, geometry is used for building all sorts of things, from building houses to building spaceships. And it all began from the ancient Egyptians who started to measure the earth. We need to thank the harpadonapte for this gift. Thank you for watching. This is Geeta Vijaychandran signing off.
Montessori Grandma.